Welcome to another episode with me, Onyx, and we are going to talk about kind of the continuation of the last video where I kind of started to go into chaos magic. And and then I really want to make a video on a wizard's code of ethics. And it's perfect that chaos magic, at least the introduction to the theory of it, um, was brought forth in the last video. I apologize for the background noise. My roommate downstairs is taking a shower, and we can hear the water pipes. So that's a little distracting. In the last video, basically, we talked about chaos magic is kind of not a thing because everyone's kind of doing chaos magic. We believe lies, and basically, so I just can't even explain it. I just have to watch that video because my mind is already moved forward to something I've been really thinking about for months, maybe even years off and on, but rarely. But this last month, working with clients, I always have a few apprentices and I have a few clients that I somehow find under my wing. Um, and for a time, they will be on my path and we will learn together, or I will be an assisting force. So let's talk about archetypes for a moment. The archetype of the saint, the archetype of the witch, the archetype of the prophet, the archetype of the caretaker, the rescuer, the hero, the warrior, the villain. They all get played out in the stories of our lives, and we may be kind of forced to play an archetype that we're actually not suited for. And so we might not be a good mother and be beating ourselves up over it. But if we were true to our genetic programming, we would go join the military and fly jet airplanes and drop bombs. And we might be more of on a collective level, a collective warrior or hero battling for your country. And so I bring this up because I feel like a lot of people have might want to be an artist, yet the reason why they're not artists is because they're not fully aligned with that archetype. Some people, so you have a strong suit that you're born with, certain archetypes that you lead your life with that serve you well. Other archetypes, not so well, or special ones you just keep to yourself. And they might be very internal and maybe even hidden or sleeping for a few lifetimes. Know thyself is so very important. So, the wizard, or yes, the wizard archetype, is someone who becomes proficient at something and takes it to a level of like unbelievable dexterity or skill or knowledge in the matter. And then they might become a professor or a teacher. But that is not the hallmark of someone who's a good practitioner or a good wizard. Some of the best wizards you'll never see on social media. They'll never write a book and they won't have a following because they're wizards. They do their craft in the wizarding ways of whatever it is. So we got technology wizards who are coming up with new innovative things. So the dreamer is a major archetype, the innocent, the child. But why? So we need to kind of, what are archetypes? They're just genetic patterns that we carry over as a species. And that happens within a collective, maybe your racial designation. So I'm Middle Eastern, so people with the Middle Eastern bloodline have certain archetypes that they lead forward with as a nation or as a country and a people. Um, I would definitely say the Magi is definitely a major archetype. So I inherit that through my people. Um, but it may not be the exact way, the manifestation in the current climate of what's going on right now, the generation I was born in, and the lifetime and the tools we have now as we've evolved. So that wizarding magi might become an astrologer or might just become a lecturer. They might become very good with communicating metaphysical ideas to other people. And so a wizard is often seen as a guide. So I may be guiding you some for a time on your path. And where am I guiding you? Obviously, is to know thyself. So just because I'm channeling it doesn't mean that's who I am. So this, a lot of people get stuck on creating an identity and trying to live within that forever, maybe making money off of it, and they look in the mirror and they go, this is who I am. Or and then other people, it's so natural, it's not it's not a thing, you know. But moving on, so let's go into this like code. So the art of wizardry or self mastery, whether it's just psychological or being a great professional in life, however you want to take this, you should have your own code of conduct. And you pull from it from your actual life experience. So one reason why wizards have a code, I'm not going to use the word sorcerer because sorcerers are not interchangeable exactly with wizards. Witches are not exactly interchangeable. We do a lot of interchanging of words, which blurs the lines and kind of creates this all inclusiveness. But the reality of it is these are specialized branches of the mystic magical wonder. So we're just kind of, just for the, I'm going to narrow it down. But I think every witch could create a code of conduct. Every wizard and sorcerer, they all can. But I'm just kind of focusing at this time, I think more on a clean level. That's not such a trigger word, wizard. Wizards, I feel like in the West, aren't seen as evil. Where I think witches and sorcerers, we're kind of going into the evil zone. Um, Not that I believe in any of that. So we can't. So the reason why we kind of went into archetypes is because we get triggered, and it's the wounded child. It's the part of us that went through life that was maybe picked on because of the color of our skin, or our gender, or when we're growing up, we see the world very different. And so the interpretation of our personal narrative, our personal story, is more of a myth than a reality. And so one of my biggest triggers when I'm creating this code, because I've been working on it for a few days, creating this code, wizard's code. And one really big trigger is I don't like loud, aggressive, overly assertive, overly masculinated women. What, Onyx? Why? Looking at my trigger, that's my adoptive mom. She's an extreme feminist who went a little over the top with it, always talking bad about my adoptive father, basically demasculinating him and not. And so she was a little over the top because she didn't heal her inner wounding. with supposedly her dad and her brothers, her inner child wounding. And so, what so for our code of conduct, we have to understand who we are. Because does that mean I should lash out at everyone who triggers me? No. It means that's where I take responsibility and ownership and go, okay, this is something you need to work on. So, in a really weird twist of fate, most of my best friends are loud, aggressive, feminist women. So, here I am going, this is not what I like. This is probably what I would like to attack. And yet, this is something I'm learning to understand, befriend. And it's not like I'm trying to be friends. No, it just so happens that for some odd reason, we get along. So we can have this paradox going on where the thing we love is the thing we hate, and the thing we hate is the thing we love. There's this duality that goes on, this paradox that. So if you can't grasp duality and you get too polarized, you can't ascend to chaos magic. You can't ascend to the next level, the Omega level, like in the comic books. You can't be an Omega mutant because you're dealing with things beyond black and white. If you have to live in the black and white, and maybe this is a wake up call, that so you attract what you need to work on. You attract what is not part of oneness. The universe is one organism. So when you take a strong stance in fear, mistrust, hate, blame, whatever it is, then you automatically attract it back into your life until you work it out. So it's all for self-realization. Does it mean I need to be best friends with these people? No. But it means that I shouldn't value any particular type of person above or below the other. You can have preferences, and even those preferences, I would say, are biased. And we can't help being biased. So, also, what's going on through all this is the Fool card. The Fool card, when you start really looking at your life, you really start doing some of that inner cleanup work, looking at your history, your wounded child, the things you did get, things you didn't get, the way you overcompensate, and the way things are undercompensated in your personality. It develops compassion for others and hopefully yourself. So, and sometimes the pendulum does swing. You can go completely polarized negative. I hate the world and everyone in it, and humans must die because they hurt Fluffy. Don't hurt Fluffy. Or I love everyone, and I know they're a really bad, terrible person who's never going to change, and people have been injured, but I'm feeling so good, I'm going to be okay with it all. So sometimes we can go back and forth between extremes. Sometimes, so our emotions, where we are at in our daily process, whatever. So this is why you probably want to know yourself. Do a little self-inquiry, a little self-examination, self-reflection. Because every time you tango with someone, there's an energy exchange. Can you really afford to use that focus, that magical willpower, that time out of your day, the money, the resources to buy your magical equipment, to ward off, protect, cleanse? That was a lot of wasted resources on someone. You really kind of invested a lot. And so even though you might win the battle and I'm right attitude, you might go, that cost me $30, 15 hours, and maybe a night of really good sex. Was that person worth it? Was that worth it? Did it distract you from maybe using those resources to save that money? Meditate, get connected more to your guides, elevate your power, build up that battery of power for your ascension process. So that's really kind of how I look at these battles. They're very costly. Um, and so usually, actually, that's what makes me mad. I'm like, that took my time, took my energy. You don't give a care about me. I went through a lot of things. I had psychic damage, maybe even some physical damage, all over what? Some broken inner child that needs validation. We live in a culture that can't handle no. So when you reject someone, you're using the most powerful word, the most evil word, the most sinister word on our planet for Westerners is the word no. The customer is always right. Righteousness. We're always on the right side. Heroes are always on the right side. What I think is right, what I'm defending is the right. So the word no is basically the Antichrist. When you put up a boundary and say no, when you start honoring yourself, you're using the big N word. And it wasn't even racist. It was no. Our culture doesn't understand the word no. No, you can't have that energy. No, you have no right to do that to me, to say that to me. The word no creates boundaries. No, I will discipline myself to not think about you and instead think about myself. So, no more is a very powerful word, and I would suggest mastering it because it will take you very far in life. Say no to yourself. No, I will not watch porn. Not so much. Well, all right. Self-discipline. No, I won't. No, I will not drink. No, I will not do drugs. Just for 72 hours. Good job. Good job. So, have some self-discipline so you can discipline others. We can have a little fun tonight with all this. Because we in the West, we in this modern culture, take everything way too serious. And so, looking at some of my big triggers, and then let's look at power struggle. Do you have a tendency to need to be right? Do you need to be the dominant personality in the room? So do you not can you not handle other dominant people? Looking at myself, I don't really mind. I know the dominant side of me is very repressed and is part of my shadow. So my evil side, my sinister side, probably does a lot of judgment and criticism and gets a little shady when it starts to see himself reflected in other people's eyes. So, do you have a sense of justice? So I kind of did an inquiry into villains. What I really love about comic books is not all of the comic stuff. I don't get jazzed about it. In fact, I think all the comic book movies have gotten way out of hand. And the cartoon shows are actually 10 times better. But when we start really looking at villains and heroes, there's not a lot of difference, except villains tend to get a little polarized, a little too polarized, a little too self-serving. But they're archetypes. They're modern archetypes of the same old gods, the same psychological forces. And so, one archetype I've been looking at is Loki. He seemed very popular. I didn't really get him, but then it's like, have you ever, you can't see the obvious. standing right in front of you and you're like oblivious to it. You like don't recognize the truth staring at you in the face. So I even have a Loki t-shirt. And here I am going, do I have any of that trickster, playful energy? Do I have any of that cunning, manipulative energy? Do I have any of that shape shifting, transgender energy? And the word is absolutely yes. But I think I kind of keep it on the back burner. And then what I really liked was the Chaos Witch Boy, Clarion. Watching just like his power scenes on YouTube and just some of the stuff going on, I'm like, oh, that's so me. So characters can reflect ideals about you, aspirations or natural talents. And so I really know I'm a villain in the magical comic book world of Marvel and DC, or at least especially DC. And it's and so it's fun. It's these are this getting to know yourself helps you create your wizard's code, because a lot of the things that other people might care about get offended. I don't get offended about, because like my goals in life have nothing to do with some of the basic things like, oh, he stole my boyfriend. Literally, that happened recently. Um, and I was like, oh well, I guess that was a that was like a karmic test, and I guess everyone failed, and your loss, my win. So I have this rule called losers win and winners lose. So the person who won my loser boyfriend, and the one who lost me won his freedom. I don't need to be so losers. So that's part of the wizard's, your own wizard's code, your own wizard's philosophy, and your own way of seeing the world. It's a reductionist view. You lose something in the material plane to gain something in the spiritual. So every time I lose something in the material, I gain something in the spiritual. So I lost my connection, relationship with one of my best friends. The loss was totally worth it, because what I gained is myself and my mind back, my direction, going towards chaos magic. She was going towards, Jesus and being a saint and trying to save the world. And I'm like, so I needed to step away from that and just get clear, come back to me. When they came back to me, I realized, bro, you're a freaking wizard. Get away from that religious shit. Don't even touch it. Don't get into the, when you blend religion with magic, that's not our thing. So I wipe my hands of that evil, muddy waters. Who would have thought that bringing God into the mix created a nightmare? But it does. Ask 3 of my clients who are paying me to do black magic to protect them, because they don't dare get their hands dirty, because they're angels and saints and they're saving the world. Yet who do they call but a chaos wizard? Right? Playful. All right. So looking more into the story of my life, one of my big triggers is people who don't pay attention, don't take things serious, and are too playful with other people's emotions, with other people's feelings. Like, and why would that be such a trigger? Why would that be like my number one enemy? Why would that get under my skin? Like, who would have thought? Someone like stole some money from me at one point. That didn't bother me. I'm like, I'm not materialistic. So, whatever. But being on the receiving end of someone's negligence, someone's unconsciousness, someone's ignorance was a very painful thing growing up as a child, repeatedly. Um, no one really thinks that you've had a hard time or you've gone through hell and back. So their little dig, their little one-upmanship, their little attitude um, can really hurt. And so that's another thing I need to get over. And so, does that mean I need to now use my power to destroy them? You know, no. It means yes and no, or just no. So, when I was younger, it would be I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm going to be the gods of justice. I'm going to be the hand of karma. And now I have other priorities like my health, my well being, my financial security, feeling secure. Like I've kind of went a different direction. So at different points in time, your code, your beliefs, your moral ethics, and we're looking at the actions we're going to take from all this, which is probably going to be a magical act. They're going to change. So when I was younger, the more immature me would have been, oh, bitch, I'm going to, in the magical planes, you're going to, you know, I'm going to disempower you and make you feel powerless, which was one of my old fashioned favorite things to do. And what's really interesting is now that I've given up that, like I don't even care to do that, I've somehow gained the ability to take power away. I'm like, what? I don't even care to do that. So once again, it's that reductionist thing. When I lost the desire to claim, to absorb and take power, magical powers away, when I didn't care anymore, I got that ability. Why does the universe give you things you don't even want? Haven't you noticed that? You don't want to be popular, so you're popular. You don't want to have psychic abilities, you got psychic abilities. So, and I think really mostly it's because we try too hard, we get in our own way. So, but, and also now that I'm responsible, now that I have enough psychology under my belt, maybe I kind of like leveled up. So the inner work levels you up spiritually, magically, psychologically, and helps you interact with the outer environment that is part of this holistic organism that we're in, however you want to say it. So yeah, this is an in-depth process. We talked about self-reflection, looking at our own mythical story, our own reality story, and seeing where we line up. Because it's really interesting. When I go solitary, when all my goals have to do with spirituality, the inner development of me, I get so much power. I get so many doors in the spiritual realms opening. It's like I'm on this other adventure and I've got out of the kiddie pool where people are fighting and people are locking horns, trying to prove things. I'm like in this whole other dimension interacting. I'm like definitely exploring a higher reality. So much so that I almost just don't even I'm so specialized that I'm like a mad scientist locked in his laboratory exploring other dimensions, that I don't really care what's going on with the world. And so being really focused on what you're all about eliminates automatically creates a psychic shield around you, because you just don't have, or else you don't have time for it. It's just that your energy becomes so streamlined that you're like in the fast lane and your paths don't really connect. It's easier not to get stuck in that. But we're out of time for this video, so let's move on. We're going through the clarification process of building our magical rules.